On November 28, Japanese singer Otsuki Maki, known for her One Piece EDs, was rushed off stage mid-performance in Shanghai. On November 29, one of the biggest pop stars in Japanese history, Hamasaki Ayumi, performed in an empty venue despite having been forced to cancel her show that same morning, also in Shanghai. That, plus a handful of cancellations of other Japanese-related events, is the result of the Chinese government's latest spree of sanctions in response to Japanese Prime Minister Takaichi's recent comments regarding Taiwan. Now, before I dive into this messy and unfortunate situation, I want to emphasize that there are no anti-Chinese sentiments here, alright? The biggest victims of the Chinese government's actions are the Chinese fans who paid and traveled across such a massive country to see their favorite singer, only for it to be cancelled last minute or during the minute. Also, a fair warning, I'll mention some of the more graphic history between those two countries, so maybe skip that part if it makes you uncomfortable. But the theme of this video is really about the people paying for the government's actions. The rising tension between the Chinese and Japanese governments started on November 7, when Japanese Prime Minister Takaichi said that if China ever invades Taiwan, Japan will consider sending its army. And the Chinese are ultra-sensitive when it comes to Taiwan. Just look at what they did to a 16-year-old Suyu. So, sanctions. They started by blocking their own people from traveling to Japan, which obviously affected Japanese tourism, though a lot of people actually welcomed it because there were just way too many tourists. If anything, now is probably the best time to go to Japan. Then what followed was a wave of cancellations. The upcoming Japanese movies, live-action Cells at Work, and the Crayon Shinjan film were pulled. Luckily, Demon Slayer has already been out, and fans have already gotten to see it. On November 17, popular boy band Jo1 canceled their fan event due to fukakoryoku, which is a phrase you'll be hearing a lot in this video, meaning unavoidable circumstances. On the 22nd, popular music duo Yuzu canceled their Asia tour due to unavoidable circumstances, interestingly including Hong Kong and Taiwan. Now, it's unfortunate and surely devastating for fans that these events are being cancelled, but I wouldn't say it's shocking because the conflicts between China and Japan in modern history have been going on for almost a century. Whenever Japanese prime ministers pay tribute to soldiers from World War II, including war criminals, South Korea would protest and China would respond with sanctions. And honestly, I don't blame them. For most younger generations, especially in Western countries, China and Japan tend to sit on opposite ends of the likable nations list. Japan's a stereotypically clean, beautiful country with amazing food, polite people, and most importantly, anime. China has no freedom of speech, no democracy, and some of the tourists and immigrants are annoying. These are all stereotypes with a kernel of truth. But in my opinion, not enough people get the opportunity to know the ugly side of Japan and the beautiful side of China. And that applies to really most countries in the world, where we only know them based on impressions. And to kind of explain why they have such a complicated relationship, we gotta briefly go through the darkest time in both nations' histories. What the Nazis did is well taught in Western society, and the German government and many Germans have made their remorse almost part of their culture. On the other hand, not a lot of people outside of Asia know what the Japanese did besides Pearl Harbor. Well, the atomic bombs kind of shifted the focus, making them seem like the bigger victim than the countries they'd invaded. The Japanese government allowed chemical weapons, human experimentation, its own version of the Holocaust across Asia, and treated women and kids from invaded countries as sex slaves. In comparison to Germany, when it comes to accountability and remorse, it feels like the Japanese government apologized with the help of ChatGPT, because every administration has a different stance. Some apologized, some honored their war heroes, and some denied any war crimes. It's just wishy-washy and insincere. So you get why countries like China and South Korea have such a different attitude towards Japan compared to Western countries. My point is, their tension and this back and forth have been going on for decades, so concerts being cancelled is not that surprising. As a matter of fact, in 2018, BTS's performance was cancelled in Japan because its member, Jimin, was seen wearing a shirt honoring Korea's independence from Japan's colonization, which included a picture of the atomic bomb. He has every right to celebrate the cause, but Hiroshima is really a tragic case of innocent people paying for the government's crimes. And just this November, the very same month Japanese artists are being forced out of China, over 120,000 Japanese people are petitioning to boycott aespa's performance later this year in Japan, because his Chinese member, Ningning, bought the lamp shaped like the mushroom cloud back in 2020. I understand where they're coming from, but they clearly weren't bothered 5 years ago. Even NHK, Japan's biggest broadcaster, which is hosting the S-Bus performance, has said the show will go on as planned. Although I do wonder if they would have been so understanding had China not shown how bad it looks to cancel a show. Now let's begin with the Otsuki Maki incident, because that's honestly the most disgraceful and pathetic part of this whole saga. Otsuki Maki is best known for singing the first One Piece ED, Memories. On November 28, she joined Rigo Lily, Ash the Hero, and Momoilo Clover Z to perform at the Bandai Namco Festival. But a few songs into her performance, and halfway through singing Memories, which is probably what a lot of fans were looking forward to, the lights and music suddenly shut off, and the staff escorted her off stage. The fans caught on immediately. The videos got out and sparked a wave of criticism across the internet, including from Chinese people around the world, and even became international news. A former editor of a major Chinese newspaper made a post online criticizing such actions and how they make China look bad. But a day later, it was taken down, and he instead wrote his support for the government's decision. I'm really fortunate to be here making this video. Aside from how disrespectful it is to rush the singer off the stage mid-performance, what's even more inexcusable is that we've already seen a couple of events cancelled at this point. So it's not like the government decided the festival shouldn't happen during the performance. Someone knew. And I don't know if it's poor communication or bad intention, but there sure as heck wasn't an ounce of decency. The festival was unsurprisingly axed the same day, and so were most other events and concerts. The Lisani anime concert featuring the likes of Ripside, known for anime songs like Only My Railgun, and the popular VTuber Kafu's first overseas concert in Shanghai were both called off, all because of unavoidable circumstances. I genuinely feel bad for the fans. Yeah, they'll get their money back, but the time and energy wasted won't. Plus, the immeasurable amount of anticipation. It must be devastating. Another singer whose concert got canned was none other than Hamasaki Ayumi. She was the most popular female singer across Asia in the early 2000s. She's the 5th best-selling overall and the #1 best-selling female solo artist in Japanese history. Basically, she's a legend. In 2024, almost 20 years after the absolute peak of her popularity, she still managed to sell out an 18,000-seat venue in Shanghai under a minute, and was, in a good way, forced to add another show, which also got sold out instantly. So, understandably, a lot of Chinese fans were crushed when her team announced the bad news. But this is where things got interesting. On November 29, Hamasaki did something no Chinese artist would ever dare to do. She made a flamboyant, rebellious gesture. She performed the entire concert from start to finish, including the encore, in front of 14,000 empty seats. From the stage that took 5 days to build to the concert itself, the collective effort of 200 Japanese and Chinese staff members was not in vain. In fact, she elevated this event into something more than just entertainment. Now, I won't pretend that there may or may not have been some PR motivation behind it, but it was a truly meaningful and, not to mention, brave thing to do, because it made the Chinese government look really bad and petty. So after the atrocious incident from a day ago, another Japanese artist made the headlines again, only this time for all the right reasons. But what followed next, though, is a different level of pathetic. A Chinese staff member posted a video of her rehearsal and said that the whole concert was a hoax. Fake news. She somehow decided to rehearse after the show got cancelled. I think it's pretty clear that something fishy is going on behind the post. And lo and behold, Chinese media latched onto it and started claiming that Hamasaki and the Japanese media are lying. Basically, the government is trying to save some face. Some Chinese netizens who still understandably hold a grudge towards Japan started attacking them online, yelling bloody murder for pulling off stunts and making fake news. Then Hamasaki started reposting Taiwanese news and confirming she did indeed perform the whole thing. Unfortunately, it's a universal thing that when someone simply refuses to face the truth, no amount of facts can convince them. All these shenanigans are a way for the Chinese government to punish the Japanese people and pressure their government into retracting the statement. But in reality, they're just punishing their own people by stopping them from watching movies, traveling, and seeing their favorite singers. And what does playing hardball and acting like the villain do to a prideful nation such as Japan? The approval rate for Prime Minister Takaichi has climbed to an all-time high of 75%. So not only did they make themselves look like a bunch of sore losers, but the Japanese artists are getting more exposure and support, while the Prime Minister is being backed even more strongly by the people. It's just backfiring in the most spectacular fashion. If you want to reach a civilized mutual understanding and a peaceful common goal, conflicts are just not the way. This is not normally the kind of video I make, so hopefully it's a one-off thing. Art should not be involuntarily involved with politics, and people shouldn't have to pay for the government's actions. But to end things on a more positive note, for the next video, I'll be introducing the band behind your name, Red Wimps. Thanks for watching. This has been Cushion. See you next time.